Apologize for the late preview, was on a plane. Hope you all enjoyed Worlds and the games. Getting silver scrapes in the finals was such a treat. I'll write up some of my thoughts later this week. Zaahen will also go live this patch. We wanted to have many throwbacks and homage to Xin Zhao throughout his kit while also giving him the Darkin Flare, vamping, lifesteal, and revive. I mean, yeah, it's like a top lane Xin Zhao, right? Interestingly, Zaahen started out as a support. Really? But after some testing, we pivoted him to top lane as it would allow him to better execute on his power fantasy. Well, that's interesting. We think the revive this time will be a better balanceable as the one on demand nature of previous revives was typically what made them problematic to balance, so he does have to either fight for a long time or land a lot of multi hits to trigger it, which if he's doing that, we think it's probably deserved. The team really cooked, we're excited for him. I'll add a few more thoughts and behind the scenes. Alternate junglers. This patch we're looking at a lot of novelty-oriented changes around adding new champions into the jungle. What? Again? Again we're doing that? We had like 3 patches of you guys doing that already. Don't we have enough champions in jungle? We're doing it again? That's kinda crazy. Many regions suffer from high jungle autofill rates, and being able to play your mains when you're autofilled we think is overall not positive. Well, that's kinda interesting, but I don't know if this is like the problem, right? They're saying they're trying to adjust the symptom of the problem, but I don't know if this is the right way to do it. I get what they're trying to say. They're trying to say that like, hey, if you play, I don't know, Aurelion Sol and you get filled to jungle, you can play mid jungle, right? But the reason why people don't like playing jungle in the first place, I mean, that's a never-ending problem in League. People obviously don't like playing jungle because it's just a role where the responsibility is way too high in the role. You get blamed for everything. You need to do so many things. The role is pretty much the most OP role in the game, by far. So the amount of power you hold is just ridiculous. They're definitely not addressing this problem. They're just trying to like kind of band-aid fix it here a little bit. Some of these changes are more experimental. We're trying fees in the jungle. What the fuck? But we'll be monitoring closely to see how they shake out. Wow, okay. Mel. Thanks to Faker for raising visibility on Mel, we're making some relatively power neutral adjustments that move power out of some of her high frustration and lower counterplay builds. Emax. What? Come on. Thanks to Faker. I mean, Faker is not really the one who's even popularizing the Emax. That would be me, Mr. Froxon, but okay. Actually, if we take a look at Mal, I mean, it was bound to happen eventually, right? But if you look at Mal Emerald Plus, Emax is not even close to being popular, by the way. Just look at this, 50,000 games of people maxing Q. 6k games of people maxing E. Trust me, a vast majority of people are still maxing Q, so I don't even think this is like a big problem that Emax might exist. And it is better, obviously, than Qmax. That's why the good players do it, right? The Emax build in particular is pretty far and forget and is looking quite a bit stronger than Qmax in many situations. Yes, I've been saying that for months. This is a relatively unintuitive to players on lower gameplay, so we're making adjustments to it. See, the problem is that I actually think this is too early to do, because you're going to make Emax worse, right? But most people are maxing Q anyway. You're not really like making anything better for Mal. People are frustrated with the champion because of Q and W. It doesn't even seem to be. Maybe it's because of E2, but they're not maxing it. So I think they're not addressing any of the problem here when it comes to Mal and why people ban the champ. Mundo. Recently, the team found a quite impactful bug where Mundo was getting max damage at 30% missing health instead of 70% missing health. Oh, wow. Okay, that's a massive bug. While it didn't result in a change in his win rate overall, he was still balanced around this. He did change his overall power budget, so the damage is being adjusted back up to compensate. Despite his recent rise to fame in several series, we still think he's overall pretty balanced, but just has a pretty sharp success and failure cases, which seem okay for now. Vladimir, as one of the beneficiaries of the sustained nerfs in previous patches, Vladimir has benefited quite a bit. We're tapping him down a bit and making him more vulnerable in top lane. Well, interesting. So it's like probably like we're looking at like an armor nerf or something. So Vladimir is benefiting because of Dawnshield's second wind nerfs? Really? I mean, on mid lane, I don't really see this really being a thing. Maybe it is true for top lane champions. Okay, I mean, makes sense. I mean, his win rate is pretty high. Oh, okay, there's a decent amount of buffs. We're going for a buff-heavy champion, but probably a lot of them are useless. So let's see. AATROX in jungle. Okay. Personally, I'm fine with that one. AATROX jungle actually existed a while ago. Many years ago. It was even a pro play pick. Long time ago, before the AATROX rework. I actually think the kit, to me, kind of makes sense in jungle. And I think this is okay. I'm not unhappy with that one. Ahri buff. Okay, so Ahri got recently R buffed, which was a quite impactful buff. But seems like they want to push her to be even better. And I guess they want her to find more skins. Cho'Gath jungle. Okay. Personally, I'm also a fan of that one. I actually think Cho'Gath, from kit-wise, makes a lot of sense in jungle. Was also a thing back in the day. The reason why I like Cho'Gath jungle is also because it's kind of like Maokai / Nunu. It's kind of similar in a way. And I also feel like we need more tank type of champions in jungle anyway. So I actually think this is like a good thing for the game. A lot more than AATROX jungle. I'm not opposed to this. JAYCE jungle doesn't really make any sense to me. This one seems kind of random. I get that they want like they basically want JAYCE mains to be a little bit bad, like a little bit, you know, if they get filled, they can play JAYCE jungle. I just, from kit perspective, doesn't make any sense to me. I personally see this as a negative thing. Now, is JAYCE gonna be a jungler? Probably not. I think they're just gonna give him monster mods. So what's gonna end up happening is he's just gonna be a better top laner. Because when you're heading top lane or maybe mid lane, you're gonna have an easier time taking camps. So it's just gonna be a top lane JAYCE buff, pretty much is what I'm thinking here. But AATROX and Cho'Gath jungle, I like JAYCE, I don't. Jhin. Jhin buff, okay. Sure. Don't mind that, okay. Malphite jungle buff. How do we feel about Malphite jungle? I mean, Alice is kind of known for this, right? He fucking plays it all the time. I don't know. I feel like I don't have a problem with Malphite jungle. I have a problem with Malphite, I guess. It's just a very low interaction, low counterplay, low skill champion. When he's not good, the game tends to be better, honestly. So, and honestly, like, yeah, you face Malphite jungle, the way you like fight him and the way you lose to him kind of feels like he just point and clicks you. It's the same as in lane Malphite. Not really a big fan of the champion in general. So we have a Misfortune buff. Honestly, seems fine. Rek'Sai. So Rek'Sai getting buffed is actually kind of crazy to me because last time I checked, statistically speaking, she was doing so fucking well. But it's, again, it's the Rek'Sai problem where she's only good in like 2 brackets of Elos, which is like only high MMR. So like Diamond and Master is the only MMR where she performs. And the problem is that the champion has insanely low pick rate. It is played only by Rek'Sai mains. So even when the champion is strong, it goes under the radar. It's kind of similar to Gwen. It goes insanely under the radar because the pick rate is still low, even though the mains of Rek'Sai are stomping everybody. I'm also not really happy to hear that Rek'Sai is getting buffed because of Rek'Sai top lane meta that just happened at Worlds, because I personally was a really big hater of Rek'Sai top at Worlds because the champion is insanely uninteractive and boring to watch for pro play, in my opinion. So with Rek'Sai being buffed, it kind of also means that top lane Rek'Sai is getting buffed here. RIVEN jungle. RIVEN jungle. I mean, it also used to be a thing many years ago. This one, I wouldn't say I'm opposed to it, but I have a feeling it's probably just gonna buff top lane RIVEN, you know? Like, I don't know. Just from my gameplay, right? RIVEN is usually very good in high MMR, so it affects like bracket of Ela that I play in 0.01% of player base, right? From my personal experience playing against RIVEN a lot the last few weeks, I think the champion is insanely OP in solo queue still. But to me, I mean, it's probably not going to be enough. It's kind of similar to like JAYCE jungle. It's probably not going to be enough to make her a jungler. but it's just gonna basically buff top and Riven. Skarner, yeah, I called it out on my last clip. Skarner lost like 6% win rate this patch. They butchered him, they completely failed their job. Whoever is playtesting at Riot completely failed at their job last patch. I actually think this champion should be hotfix buffed, but I actually think the only reason why it wasn't hotfix buffed is because he's not popular. If this is Yon or Yasuo getting this type of nerf, it would be instantly hotfix buffed. So yeah, I really feel bad for the Skarner players. Their champion is literally the worst champion in the game this patch. Swain, happy. Would like to see some of his armor being back, because couple of patches ago, Riot nerfed Swain armor growth per level, so it made him a lot squishier because the champ already gains a lot of health, so armor is very valuable on him. I would love if they partially revert that nerf, or just give him more damage, I guess. But the reason why I like tankiness buffs on Swain is because then you basically incentivize him to buy more damage. Tristana buff, okay, sure. Xayah buff, okay. I guess they're just buffing a lot of ADCs to kind of like shake up the ADC meta. I think Zaahen and Tristana are honestly good. They don't really deserve a buff, but I'm also not gonna say that it's wrong to buff them, right? And then Zari, I think Zari is probably the weakest ADC for like solo queue and stuff out of these three, so Zari buff is probably like the most deserving here. Champion nerfs, so we have an Ashe nerf already. They nerfed her AD, they buffed her AD growth recently. I guess the win rate is a bit high. We have a Caitlyn nerf, so I'm pretty sure Caitlyn, looking at her statistically, she's actually not doing super well. She's just like 50% win rate, whatever, or maybe even slightly less. But I would assume this is a frustration problem being built up because more and more players are playing Kate, and laning against Kate is oppressive. Hwei nerf, okay. Depending on how big the nerf is, I'm probably gonna stop playing the champ because I constantly cry that the champ is terrible, even though I love playing it. And by terrible, I mean, I don't think he's like super underpowered. I just mean that he's worse than every single top tier mage in the game. So in Fearless Draft, Hwei is actually great because in competitive, when you get to game 4, game 5, so many mids are out that he actually becomes good. But in solo queue, when all the good mages are constantly open, I actually think that Hwei is only good when you play him against like not the best champions. Jinx nerf, another ADC that's been like at 52% win rate for a very long amount of time. No surprise here. We have a Kai'Sa nerf, so it seems like they're actually trying to shake up a lot of ADC meta this patch. Like ADC meta is really getting big shake up here from what I can see. I feel like we're moving more into like Xayah, maybe Zarya Chist meta, and less Jinx Kai'Sa, I guess. Kate, Ashe. Yeah, a lot of nerfs, a lot of buffs. Even MF buff, Jhin buff. And then Vladimir nerf for the reasonings they said. Okay, I would assume it's like an armor nerf or something because they're saying top lane Vladimir. Champion adjustments. So Fizz jungle. Again, I think Fizz jungle is probably a lot more toxic to me. Like the way I have it pictured in my head than like Riven jungle or AATROX jungle. I think his ganks are a lot more unfair, and his like mobility is a lot more unfair in jungle. So I'm not a big fan of Fizz jungle, but simultaneously it's probably not enough to make him a viable jungler. It's just gonna be a Fizz buff to mid lane. Then we have a maladjustment, so they're gonna make Emax worse. So you're probably gonna go back to Qmax. I'm not sure what the buff is gonna be. Maybe they're gonna buff Q. Like for example, I can see them lowering Q mana cost, nerfing E mana cost or something, and that way you are more incentivized to put points into Q. And then Mundo champ adjustments. Okay, whatever they're gonna cook up, and then Sunfire Cape. Sunfire Cape, yeah. That item should have been buffed long time ago. But to be honest, it's weird that we don't see any tank item nerfs. I think the problem is like I think tanks are actually kind of OP. Like a lot of tank items are very OP. You see this at Worlds meta where a player like T1 and whatever, they're drafting so many tanks per game, or they're building champions very tanky all the time. But the problem is that this is just a pro play thing, and in solo queue everybody only buys damage all the time, especially in non-MMR. So Riot has a hard time nerfing tank items, and they probably have to like intentionally make tank items like a little bit stronger. Because nobody really builds them otherwise if they're like actually balanced. It's a hard problem to balance. Okay, anyway, to conclude this patch, looking way more interesting than the last 3 patches. The last 3 patches felt like Riot was doing nothing, but now This is actually a big patch for ADC and some jungle champs, and maybe will shake up the meta. Doesn't seem to be that big of a patch for mid lane or top lane, I would say. Some changes here and there, and there's no changes for support. So I think support as a role has gotten close to 0 changes in the last like 5 patches, maybe. Yeah, so support as a role gets no changes. It's really weird. The Rad is not really focusing on supports at all.